Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for this Goi Peace Foundation Forum 2020. Today, Masami Sayonji, the chairperson, and myself, Hiro Sayonji, president of the foundation, will be conducting the proceedings of this forum. The Goi Peace Foundation Forum is the most important annual event for the foundation. And every year, we decide on a theme for the year. The purpose is to think about creating a better society together with all of you. Every year, the forum is attended by ambassadors to Japan as well as leaders of various fields. It is obviously attended by many support members, but this year, unfortunately, this COVID-19 is not yet contained. So from the perspective of infection prevention, we decided not to hold the event physically. This year, even our regular lectures, we decided to organize them in an online format, but actually, for people living in the regions, they said that it is easier for them to attend real time. Or for busy people, they said that it is convenient since they can attend the event from their homes. So many favorable feedback we received. So in addition to the regular participants of the forum, for those people who usually find it difficult to come to the hall, those who live in the regions or abroad, we hope that this will be a good opportunity for you to experience the forum, this time online. The global spread of COVID-19 is the biggest pandemic in 100 years since the Spanish flu that raged in early 20th century. It is a grave threat to the humankind. We wish to express our condolences to those who lost their lives and pray that the pandemic will be contained at the earliest possible time. However, this pandemic has brought some changes in the way that we live and the way that we work. It had some positive aspects in creating new ideas in many ways. Yes, this pandemic itself is a crisis for the humanity, but then this could be a catalyst for us to become more aware, and we can turn it into an opportunity to make a better society. What kind of life do we choose? What future society should we create? Now is the time for us to give it some serious thought. In reflecting that hope, we decided on the theme of today's forum, creating a better world for future generations. This year's program is comprised of two parts. In part one, we will have the Goi Peace Award acceptance speech and a talk session. Part two will be the presentation of the first prize winners of the International Essay Contest for young people. About part one, the Goi Peace Award, since there may be some of you who are attending this forum for the first time this year, let me just give you a brief overview. The Goi Peace Award is an international award presented annually to honor individuals and organizations in various fields, including education, science, culture, arts, politics, and economy, that have made outstanding contributions towards the realization of a peaceful and harmonious world for all life on Earth, in alignment with the guiding vision of the Declaration for All Life on Earth, advocated by the Foundation. The guiding vision and the general principles of the Declaration for All Life on Earth considers the Earth as an evolving living entity. Each one of us have the responsibility and the mission to take care of that entity. It is a view of life. And the four general principles are reverence for life, respect for all differences, gratitude for and coexistence with all of nature, harmony between the spiritual and material, valuing life, valuing differences, valuing nature, and valuing our hearts. This is the kind of society that we are aiming to build. So this set of values is one criteria for the Goi Peace Award. Until today, there are 20 recipients of the Goi Peace Award and 5 recipients of Culture of Peace Special Award, a total of 25 laureates altogether. Past recipients include 3 heads of state, including President Gorbachev of the Soviet Union, Her Royal Highness Princess Lala Hasna of Morocco, philanthropist Mr. Bill Gates, systems philosopher Dr. Irvin Laszlo, pioneer in holistic medicine Dr. Deepak Chopra. Japanese recipients include Dr. Genshitsu Sen, former Urasenke Grandmaster, artist Mr. Ikuo Hirayama, Dr. Takeshi Umehara, and Mr. Kazuo Inamori. And this year, the award went to the French economist and thinker, Dr. Jacques Attali. Dr. Attali is referred to as the intelligence of Europe. He has served as advisor to successive presidents and works at the center of French politics. He also founded an NGO, Positive Planet. He works on poverty and other issues toward a more sustainable society. Dr. Attali is advocating and promoting positive economy that contributes to the well-being of all life and the benefit for the next generation. The spirit of altruism is in sync with the peace principle of the Goi Peace Foundation, and that is why the award went to Dr. Attali. Unfortunately, Dr. Attali could not come to Japan this time, but earlier this month, we had an internet-connected session between Japan with his home in France, which is under lockdown due to the pandemic, and he gave an acceptance speech, and following that, Professor Emeritus Hiroshi Tasaka of Tama University joined, and we had a talk session. We want to share that video of that session with you now. So please take a view.
Now, we would like to start with the 2020 Goi Peace Foundation Forum Part 1, Goi Peace Award Laureate speech and the talk session. First, let me introduce this year's laureate. After the screening by the screening committee, Goi Peace Award for 2020 was decided to be awarded to the French economic and social theorist, Dr. Jacques Attali. Based on his experience and abundant knowledge, he has an insight from a long-term perspective comprehensively about the world, and he has made many recommendations to build a brighter future for mankind. In particular, he has been stressing the need of cooperation based on altruism by controlling claims and desires of selfish rights by individuals and nations. And he has been ringing an alarm to the current status of a world which is selfish and exclusivist. He has also proposed a positive economy contributing to the interest of future generations and all lives. So his concept of altruism matches with the peace philosophy of Goi Peace Foundation, and thus we decided to award this year's prize to him. I also think that a person very suitable for a Goi Peace Foundation was chosen, and it is an honor to have this occasion. Congratulations again. Dr. Attali, could you show us your medal? Congratulations. Now, before Dr. Attali's speech and talk session, let me introduce the panelists who will participate in the talk session. First is, of course, Dr. Jacques Attali, the laureate of the Goi Peace Award this year, and also we are having a participation of Dr. Hiroshi Tasaka. Dr. Tasaka is a professor emeritus of Tama Graduate School of Business and represents the think tank Sophia Bank, and also represents the Global Wiseman Meeting Club of Budapest. He has a lot of titles. He was a former member of a Global Agenda Council of a World Economic Forum Davos meeting. And he was also one of the members of a screening committee of this year's Goi Peace Award. I think that there are many things in common between Dr. Attali and Dr. Tasaka. Dr. Tasaka was formerly a special advisor to the cabinet. So he was an advisor to the Prime Minister of Japan. So he was also playing a central role of a national strategy. And he made many recommendations based on the future visions that he has, based on his very deep insight and knowledge. So when Dr. Attali was chosen as a laureate for this year, I thought that Dr. Tasaka must participate in this talk session. And Mrs. Masami Sayonji, chairman of a foundation, is also participating. She actually has read many books of Dr. Attali, and she was very happy that a person who she respects so much was a laureate for this year, and I, Hiro, will be the moderator for this session. Now, I'd like to ask Dr. Jacques Attali to speak about today's theme, creating a better world for future generations. I'd like to hear your views and your activities. So please spend about 10 to 15 minutes for your speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was very surprised and honored when I learned the news that I was receiving this very known prize and award, and it's a great honor for me to follow on other laureates. I must say that it is true that I spend a large part of my life and of my time today to work on what could be a better world and how to do it. I work on it on two dimensions, one by thinking and writing, and the second by acting and doing, because I think it's difficult to do only thinking or only acting, because if you act without thinking, then you are a kind of puppet in the hands of someone which is thinking on behalf of you. And if you are only thinking, then you don't really try to check if your ideas are relevant to the real world. Therefore, I first try to work on understanding and conceptualize what can be a better world, and then to act on it. When I conceptualize, as you said, I wrote many books, and now I work on two specific concepts which I think are important to understand what can be a better future. The first concept is the concept of positive society. What is a positive society? It's a society which is working in the interest of next generations. If we don't work in the interest of next generations, we are damned to be we are bound to create a very terrible nightmare for the future, because the next generations will live in a nightmare in terms of climate, in terms of waste management, in terms of poverty, in terms of pandemics, and many other dimensions. If we do not prepare for them at now, a better future, if we do not invest in what is needed, if we do not think we means both governments, individuals, private companies, NGOs, everyone have to work on that direction. And I always explain that working in the interest of the next generation is not only a kind of naive altruism. It is a very selfish behavior because we, people living today, we have an interest in the survival of next generations because next generations will finance and will work for us when we get older, and the world of our old age will not be livable if we have not trained and prepared the new generation to take over the job of managing and developing the world. Therefore, it is in the interest of the existing generations to prepare the next one to do a better job and have a good future. The second concept is the economy of life. I do think that if we want to focus and develop a really positive society, we need to focus the economy on the sectors of economy of life, which is the main sectors which are linked to a better world for next generations, which are health, education, digital, security, clean energy, clean water, hygiene, food, agriculture, and some other sectors that I mentioned in my writings. And the second is I try to act on these directions. I try to act, as you said, first at the national level, and then at the international level, because I think that nothing can be done without creating law and order at the international level. It's why I tried my best to participate to the creation of international institutions. I did that when I had the idea and I founded the first European Bank for Reconstruction and Development to hook Eastern Europe and Russia into the realm of rule of law and market economy. And I did the same when I founded Action contre la faim, which is now one of the largest institutions to help fight against hunger around the world. When I founded Eureka, which is one of the largest programs of European institutions to work for the development of technology around the world. And when I founded a foundation, which I tell today, Positive Planet, which is exactly working in trying to develop a positive society around the world. Positive society meaning, as I explained before, but what we do in the foundation is that we first evangelize the concept of positivity by doing forums around the world. We have one also in Japan, in Hiroshima, also over in France, where we try to gather people who can exchange experience and the ideas of what is a positive society, and where we do also actions to develop positive company. We push governments to become more positive by measuring their positivity. We measure the positivity of all the countries of OECD, including Japan and France and others, and we measure positivity of companies, private funds, equity funds, portfolio management. We also do at the other level of the other side of a scale of wealth. We help very poor people to create and develop sustainable, positive company, which means company which are sustainable both economically, socially, ecologically, and democratically. And we do that first in France, but also in many countries in Africa, Middle East, and Asia, where we provide programs, sometimes with the help of JICA and some other Japanese partners, to develop potential activity of for people to get out of poverty, to get out of charity by creating their own business and by becoming real actors of the world. We believe that positivity is not only a concept, altruism is not only a concept, it is a matter of fact, and we realize that when we do that, we create a better world in reality. We have helped millions of people, millions of families, and that creates also a joy for us because we realize that helping people is one of the best ways to be happy, that altruism is a kind of selfish interest, not only because we serve our interest, but because we serve our interest, because it's a great privilege to be in a situation to be helpful for the others. And in the world where we are today, where the fight is mainly between the ideology of selfishness or the ideology of altruism, of the ideology of intolerance, where each one wants to think that what he thinks is good for the other, or the of altruism, where we think that we can understand and tolerate the fact that people are thinking differently than us, then it's better to be in the world of altruism. It's the only way that we will avoid the creation of a nightmare around the world. Therefore, I'm very happy that your foundation is giving the highlights to what we are doing, what I'm thinking, and I do hope that we will have other opportunity to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this wonderful initial talk. Thank you very much for that. So now, including Dr. Attali, the four of us would like to talk about creating a better world for future generations. So, as you have mentioned, to have a sustainable and better society, the key concept you mentioned that altruism is important. And I think this concept matches with the spirit of this, our foundation, and also it matches with a traditional concept that we have in Japan. In Japan, we have a word which says compassion is not for others' benefit. What this is that to work for others, to think about others, that will come back to you as your own happiness. This is what this means. So altruism that you have mentioned, I think is a concept that we find in common, and it's not strange for us Japanese. And this concept is also seen in the world of business in Japan. There is a word saying good for everyone, good for the seller, good for the buyer, and good for society, a relationship where everyone can enjoy. This concept existed in the world of commerce in Japan. And Dr. Tasaka also is providing instructions to Japanese corporate management. So in the economy and in the society, how should altruism be expressed in the society or economy? Yes, it's a very important question. In terms of economy, I would like to talk about altruism. And actually, when we say economy of current world, everyone tends to be selfish. That seems to be the assumption. But actually, from a human anthropological perspective, since human history started, the oldest economic principle is altruism. Was based on the spirit of altruism. As you know, the current economy is a monetary economy, and before that, the economy was an economy based on exchanging goods. But the first economic principle was the gift economy. That was the first economy that was built. So through our actions, to give someone things with value, that is the kind of economy that supported the human history, and this has been supporting humans ever since human history started. But we tend to forget that. But we are enjoying the gift economy every day. In home, for example, you raise children, do the household chores, take care of the elderly, and in the community, you cooperate to maintain security and safety in the society, in the community. And actually, the gift economy is recently called a voluntary economy. The money economy increased drastically, so this turned into a shadow economy, but a big revolution happened, which is the internet revolution. As a result of internet revolution, voluntary economy became very influential. As you know, in the world of internet, every day we use the Google search engine. Everyone can use Google for free, or Linux computer operating system software is provided for free to all engineers in the world. This is used globally. For instance, Amazon, when you visit Amazon site, There are a lot of reviews about books, which is provided for free by the users. So the internet economy is a voluntary economy and is becoming influential and is connected with the monetary economy that we have now. So as Dr. Attali said, altruism in terms of economy also, I think that this is quite influential and this is recovering its power again as an economic principle. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to ask Ms. Masami. From an individual level, when you think of altruism for individuals, depending on the person, some people may say that this is only people who can afford can execute altruism. This is the viewpoint of elites. Some people say that, but altruism is not only rich people giving something to the poor, but you may be rich or poor, but the feeling that you want to help others, do something for others, is something that everyone must have. That accompanies joy and happiness. So let's ask for your views about it. I think that you had a lot of such experiences overseas. Could you introduce me that? Yes. From the point of view of a woman, I'd like to mention that for everyone, small children, adults, poor people, everybody have the spirit of altruism. Humans have this in their substance ever since we are born. All children, regardless of a country, religion, everybody was given by God. That is the starting point. I experienced in Poland maybe 20 or 30 years ago. It was still a communist country. After I got off the airplane, I was accompanied by the police officers, and I was not allowed to talk with the citizens. And there was a ceremony in a church. This ceremony was my father, Masahisa Goi, made a recommendation that when a war happens in the world, for instance, in the Second World War, Tokyo and all Japan was attacked and was burned and had the atomic bomb experience. And my father was saying that no matter how poor you are, no matter how difficult things are, humans must live in peace. You must pray for the peace of mankind. I was taught about that for people who didn't have any hope about the future. So Masahisa Goi's slogan of promoting peace throughout the world is what I try to promote in the world. And in Poland, in the church, a very poor place, there were about 100 people in the church, and they were praying for the peace of all countries and all people in the world. And they listed the name of more than 100 countries on the name list. And if you start from ABC, that would be Argentina, country starting from A, and everyone was listening quiet to that prayer. And in the middle, and P, they said Poland. Then everybody stood up, and in one country, they say, may Algeria be in peace, may Argentina be in peace. They prayed once for one country, but in the case of Poland, they repeated 10 or 20 times that may Poland be in peace. So we had to say, yes, thank you very much. I hope Poland will be in peace, but we have to move to the next country. It ended with Zimbabwe, the last country on the list. Everyone was crying so that Poland will be in peace. And many times, they repeated that word. And then an old lady came and said, thank you. The people of Japan are praying for the peace in Poland. I never expected that. A very poor person said, "There's nothing I can give you," she said. "I don't have anything, but I just want to thank you, but I want to give you this." And she gave me this ring that was from her grandmother, a very important ring for her, more important than her own life. And she said, "I will give this to you, and please keep this activity so that everyone will keep loving the country." And I said, "I will convey that, thank you, but I want to return you this ring." Then she said, "No, please take it with you." And I got back. I was very impressed with that. So altruism was there. No matter how poor they are, though there's nothing to give, they want to express their gratitude to me. So altruism and love is not something that you can do because you're poor, not only because you're children. And there's one more thing that I'd like to say.
And also in Vietnam, after the war was over, orphans, when I was in a hotel, orphans rushed to me. When they are in large numbers, I wasn't able to give any, but one orphan came to me asking for something, and I handed something to that orphan, some food. Then other children came, and this child gave his bread to others. He shared his with others. Even his piece was very small. He gave it to others. So I realized that children, even they are poor, they have altruism. This is my actual experience. Thank you very much. According to some psychological research, when you are given a favor from others, the happiness that you get when you do something good for others lasts 3 times longer than when somebody is nice to you. So altruism is not about making sacrifices for others. This is in the essence of human beings. We want to do good for others. So this essence of altruism, if that blossoms in each one of us, that would lead the way to creating an altruistic society. Now, altruism is not just between people and the environment, people and Mother Nature. In that relationship, also, for example, planet Earth, if the environment deteriorates, that will come back to us in a bad way. But if we take care of the earth, if we take care of the environment, then that would come back to us in a positive way in our health and our lives. We have such relationships with nature. Now, Dr. Attali, in 2030, your future projections for 2030, I think that was a book that you published 3 years ago. And you talk about future possibilities. You mentioned positives and negatives, and you gave a contrast between the positive and negative aspects of the future. And we have seen this pandemic rolling out right now in France. France is going into the second lockdown, and there are concerns about the spread of the disease, especially in Europe. But this pandemic it may be something that, according to your projections, in light and shade, it could be that we have more shade in the future. I think there may be some meaning there that we have this pandemic at this point in time. And as you said in your earlier speech, well, we have this pandemic now, and after it is contained and settles down, are we going back to the original world, or is there going to be a change? It's likely that the industrial structure will change in the future. You talk about the economy of life. Now, if you could elaborate on your idea of the economy of life, please, Dr. Attali.
Well, thank you very much. I do believe that there is a great risk that if this pandemic is ending, and it will end soon or later, the main trend will be to go back as business as usual. And go back to business as usual will be a very bad choice, because if you go back to business as usual, that means that we are going to continue to be in a moment where, in a situation where we were not prepared for the pandemics And that means that if we do the same, we will not be prepared for the next one or for other issues. Therefore, it will be a disaster. We have to remember, in particular in Europe and in the Western world, that we already faced such a situation at the end of the First World War, where we had at the end of the First World War very bad pandemics that is called Spanish flu, which has nothing to do with Spain, but it was called Spanish flu because it was supposed to come from Spain, but it came actually from the US. And the Spanish flu killed 50 million people. And when the Spanish flu ended in 1920, people went back to business as usual. It was joy, full of holidays and dancing and music, etc., etc. And that was called in English the Roaring Twenties. But people were not prepared for having a better world, and that led to the great crashes of 1929, and then, as you know, fascism around the world, including in Japan, and the Second World War and catastrophes. It's exactly what is going to happen if we go back to the world before, as it was before. We know, without reminding that if we are in such a situation, is that we didn't take care of the interest of next generation. We did not take care of preparing the hospitals, the education system to be ready for a pandemic. We did not prepare hygiene and rule of law at the world level in order to avoid the pandemics. And it will be a disaster. And the key question is, are we going to prepare ourselves for the next pandemics as soon as it is possible? Are we not? I hope we will, but it's possible that we will not, and that we will come back to the business as usual. If we see what is happening today, we have to be worried because I don't see a lot of people, I don't see a lot of countries understanding that we need to organize a huge shift in order to prepare a better future. People are just trying to survive as it is, to give money and support to all companies as they were in the past, and just make them survive without any attempt to reorganize or reorient. They should, on the contrary, push more support to the companies that are working in the interest of next generations, which is what I call the economy of life. And then we should see more governmental support, more banking support, more investor support for the company in those sectors. What are the sectors? They are, as I mentioned before, health, pharmaceutical industry, electronic device for medicine, education, culture, university, research, security, democracy, media, digital distribution, food, agriculture, clean water, clean energy, sustainable housing, insurance, credit, hospitality, and some other sectors of the same kind. These sectors should be represent today something like 60% of the economy of most developed countries. They should represent 80 to 90%. That means that sectors like fossil fuel energy, like textile, cars, planes, are going to be have to be reoriented towards other activities. They have not to disappear, but they have to do something less, a smaller part. Tourism will survive, but more in the meaning of hospitality than in the meaning of simply traveling around. Hospitality is a key concept which is linked to altruism, and tourism is mainly to how to receive people. It can be in hotels, but it can be also in hospitals, in families. It can be also in houses for elderly. It can be also for in the hotel themselves, but it can be also in the offices. Hospitality has to enter into the offices where people have to be welcomed and well received in order to spend at least 1/3 of their life. Therefore, it's important to develop a different concept of tourism within the concept of hospitality, which is the new word I would use for tourism in a world of positive and altruism. All that should be done, all that should be transformed, all that should be developed. It is not. And I don't see a lot of I don't see a lot of companies that have understood this need. It has to be done before the end of the COVID in order that we reorient. And I'm sure that the companies will do that, are going to be the winners. Actually, we see even in the stock markets that companies in the economy of life are the winners. If you look at what the GAFA are doing, they are in the economy of life sector and we move on rapidly in those sectors. But unfortunately, they are not very, the governments are not following, and then the company will win if we don't move. It's the case also in Europe, where we don't see any focus on these sectors, as well as in Japan, where we don't see.
Thank you very much, Dr. Attali. I do have one question for you, Dr. Attali. This is something that I've always wanted to ask you. Defense expenditures annually around the world, about 200 trillion yen is being spent on defense expenditure. Now, when it comes to the issue of life, economy of life, I think it's at the end, the extreme other end of the spectrum. This could be the economy of death, this military spending. Now that annually 200 trillion yen is spent on defense, if that much money is spent on the economy of life, there could be the double effect. The negative will disappear and that will be turned to the positive side. If that is realized, there could be a major transformation in the world. There are answers, but the approach to get there may be difficult. But on the topic of defense spending, what do you think about this?
I think it's both needed and impossible. It's needed because you're right. We should try to reduce the number of weapons. And first, we should reduce drastically the number of weapons owned by individuals. There is no reason to have so many weapons owned by individuals for hunting the animals or hunting the humans. And the situation in the US is a disaster. And therefore, the first thing I will fight is the possession of weapons by individuals around the world. Second, as far as the weapons owned by the governments, I would say that there's a British philosopher, Hobbes, who said that the definition of a government is to have a monopoly of violence. And I share this view. A government should have a monopoly of violence against the people that want to violate the law. If we don't have weapons in the hands of police people, then we'll have a lot of criminalities going around and the world will be a wild world. But the same with weapons for wars. I do think that wars is a disaster and that we should do the best to avoid it. But if we do not agree at a global level for a global disarmament, then the one who will get rid of his weapons will be a target for the others. And therefore, it's very important to embark into negotiation to reduce the number of weapons, as we have succeeded to do for biological weapons, for chemical weapons, and in a certain sense for nuclear weapons, which are not banned but reduced. We should continue to have this kind of international negotiations and reduce it. But unilateral decisions is counterproductive and will not help the situation, except put the government that decide that into position to become a slave of countries that will not do it. That is sad, but it's a fact. And what is most urgent is to destroy the weapons owned by individuals and private citizens.
Thank you very much. Yes, Dr. Tasaka, in the era of pandemic, the way people live, the way people work is also changing greatly. As Dr. Attali mentioned, post-COVID, we are not going back to business as usual, but there may be changes. So what kind of future society should we aim for? Well, in Japan also, the post-COVID society, post-pandemic society is being discussed. Discussions has started. I think there are 2 points. We should do away with illusion. One, as Dr. Attali mentioned, we will not go back to what we used to be. the whole world and in Japan, everybody seems to think that after COVID, we will go back to the society we used to have. But we should forget this illusion. We have to move to an entirely new society. Another point is that crisis that the world faced, letting aside pandemic, in almost all of the cases, those people who are economically vulnerable and who are physically vulnerable are victimized. But currently, the richer people, the wealthier people, may think that they will be able to overcome, but that is also an illusion. COVID or pandemics actually is a very democratic thing. A Czech economist called Thomas Dracek said that COVID is democratic regardless of social position. Everyone can get the infection. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. So against such a pandemic, how should we approach it? Let me give you a conclusion first. No one should be left behind. No one should be victimized. That is a society that we have to make. Even rich people will be involved. And the reason is that pandemic, even with one person infected, that may lead to the spread of infection. No matter how much you are poor, no matter how you are in a vulnerable position, you must save that person, otherwise others will also be affected. And number two, the poor people causes explosion of infections that will destroy the medical system. So if you are rich, it doesn't mean that you will be able to avoid. And the poor people, most of the poor people are essential workers. If the infection spreads among them, the social function will stop, which will affect the rich people as well. So poor people were the shock absorbers, the past economic crisis, to overcome the crisis, but we should forget that illusion. If there's someone who will be affected by the infection, the crisis of pandemic will continue. So what we should aim for as post-COVID society is a society where no one will be left behind. It is not a mere humanism, but a social system must change to that direction. Otherwise, no one will be able to live with a peace of mind. And Thomas Dracek said something very interesting, that the current COVID crisis is a test given to all humans. Can we help each other, cooperate with each other? This is being tested. So if we are selfish, everybody will get a lot of damage. But if everyone moves to the altruism direction, we'll be able to overcome COVID and have a post-COVID society. Thank you very much. Well, I want to ask Mrs. Masami. This is not directly related to pandemic, but I believe we have been thinking about it and we have been taking actions. In the future society, what kind of future society should we build? In particular, the society was centered on men, but now there must be more participation by women. There are missions that can be covered by women. Towards the future, what are your views about it? Gender equality? Of course, there's difference between men and women, but we must respect each other's difference and understand each other's difference. And men and women must work together to resolve issues and challenges and face other pains like poverty. Otherwise, if there is a view of men that is very logic, that's not something to be done. But women are trying to protect the children. So we must share each other's view and each other's experience between men and women. and they should work in harmony to create a new society, to raise children and educate children together. Not the current education system is not altruism, but it is a competition of how better you are than others. There is a discrimination. What school did you go? What company were you employed? What is your title? What is your position? Those are the winners in the current society. But it's not that. As Dr. Attali said, altruism, how much you can give the same love and compassion to others, and how can you help each other? I think what is important. And men and women should join their forces and understand each other. I think that is what is important to be able to live in harmony. In the world, currently, as Dr. Attali said, there are many problems, many issues, and I'm wearing the SDGs badge. We have poverty and climate change and other problems. We are facing a variety of problems. And Dr. Attali, about collective activity, group activity, when a big change in social activity is necessary, you are saying that this starts by changing individuals. You use the expression become oneself. Unless the inner side of individual changes, it's difficult to change the group. What do you mean by become oneself?
I mean the fact that each of us are born in a specific place, in a specific environment, and very often a lot of people wake up at 40 or 50 years old without realizing that their life is well advanced, and they have not chosen. They have not chosen what kind of life they want to have. They have not discovered their real talent. They have not discovered who they are really, and they have been chosen. They have been chosen, and they have not chosen. Becoming oneself means choose your own life. That means discover where is your real talent, where your real aspiration, and try to do it. I bet that each of us have a real talent somewhere, and that 99% of human beings die before having discovered or even tried to look for what is their real talent. And then I think we should do that. And I propose in my book, Becoming Oneself, a method to do that, which is to discover who you are, to realize that, one, your life is short, then to take your life seriously and respect yourself. Third, not to expect anything for anyone else, which doesn't mean to be selfish. That means you do not expect anything from the others, but you are altruistic yourself, but you do not expect anything from the others. You do not wait for the others to provide you with your definition of yourself. You find it yourself, and then you look for something which is special for you, different from the others, and you find it, and then you become yourself. You can do that many times in your life. The COVID is a good moment because it's a kind of parenthesis in life and a shock that can help. But it's very important to discover that before it's too late in your life.
Finding yourself. The assumption for that process is what you're saying is that death. What do we think about death? Because we die eventually, our lives are precious. Can you talk more about this, about death and life? Dr. Attali?
Well, the pandemics make us discover that we are realize that we die. Many people forget it because we prefer not to see it, and we do not see it. We don't want to see it, and therefore we don't look at it. It's why entertainment is so important, because it helps a lot of people to avoid to think about death. And then, but the pandemics remind us that we are going to die, and that it's important to have a full life and not a life full of pure entertainment. That is what I think is the real good aspect of this pandemic, is to wake up people that realize that life is short and they have to take care of it. What is the meaning of death is something that we can see differently according to the faith. Some people believe that there is a life after life. Some people say that there is nothing. Some people think that there are resurrection. Some people believe that we have an individual resurrection. Some people think that there are a collective resurrection. All beliefs are respectable if they don't want to be imposed to the others as a common belief, and each one could choose his own belief. But it doesn't change the fact that we must think of life as something that we have to cherish and to develop, because it's the only thing we are sure of. We are alive, and we don't know anything about the enigma of after death. It's why, for instance, if you look at the way we behave with books, many people buy books without reading them, because the reason they do that is that they buy books in order to reassure themselves that I will not die before having reading these books. And then you buy books to reassure you against the fear of death, which is even more true in the world of internet, where you have access of an infinite library of music, an infinite library of books, an infinite library of social networks. And then you are, in a certain sense, virtually eternal, because who can prevent you of the illusion that you will never die before you read every book, before you listen at every music, before you buy any books, all books on Amazon, or you listen to everything on Netflix or on Spotify. And therefore, we enter into the world of the illusion of virtual immortality through the availability of an infinite library of movies, musics, and books. This is illusion. The whole of the networks are illusion, and we have to come back to reality and not to let us be blind by the existence of virtual immortality, which is just virtual and a way to kill our creativity, our rebellion, and our capacity of changing the world.
Thank you. Dr. Tasaka, any response to that? On the topic of death, Dr. Attali, in his books, he has written some valuable things. In Europe, memento mori, this is Latin. Think about death. They say that. And this is quite an important notion. And there's a very similar thinking in Japan. Looking at death closely, when you really focus on death, wonderful things can blossom. It so happens that 37 years ago, I was told by my doctor that I won't have much to live. I had a very serious disease, and I was prepared to die back then. But then it was very painful. But once you focus on death, your own death, there's a number of great things that happen as I reflect back on those days. The world is bright and shining, because when you think that your days are numbered, every day, every single day, the people you meet and the scenery that you see, they are all shining. Even if we have 100-year life, it will end eventually. And when you think about that, the world view will change. Another thing, if we live in that way, because the intensity and the density of life will be enhanced, we can blossom our abilities. If you look at human beings, as our physical stamina is eroded, we tend to think that our mental stamina is also eroded. But even at the age of 60, you can have higher mental stamina. Looking at Dr. Attali, I think his age is close to 80, but he's full of vitality, very, very energetic. And all human beings can live that way. But many people, after the age of 40 or something, they believe that they can only develop so far, and they limit themselves in terms of ability development. So if we focus on death, that would allow us to develop our dormant abilities. Number 3, this is the most important thing. We only have one life to live. We don't know when it will end. How do you want to live your life? When you think about this very seriously, ambition, you may have a sense of mission, how you live your life. How do you spend your lifetime? Mission, how do you spend your life in your lifetime? You will be prepared to think about that. You will have a resolve. So Dr. Attali, what he said about death, I completely concur with that. Memento mori, looking at death closely. And a Zen master in Japan has said that he had this training. I will die tomorrow. I will die tomorrow. I will die tomorrow. He tells himself that every day. And that is a training he went through. That gave me a lot of encouragement. If we tell ourselves that we will die tomorrow, many abilities of ourselves can start to develop. Dr. Tasaka, you yourself had a time in your life that you were prepared to die. Your words are very grave and important. Now I want to turn to Ms. Masami Sayonji. Dr. Attali talked about the idea of becoming oneself. When the individual becomes independent, government, religious leaders, doctors, and scientists, these authoritative figures, rather than relying on these authoritative figures, if each one of us become independent as a member of the humankind, you have always been saying that now is the time for us to really be independent. And I think that is in line with the Dr. Attali's thinking. The way that we live ourselves in the day of the individuals. The answer is not outside. Oftentimes we say that the answer can be found within ourselves. Can you talk about this, please?
Yes, as Dr. Attali, Dr. Tasaka mentioned, yes, I was very interested with that. And from there, I remembered a new approach that I was taking. When you think about death, in your current life, what did I do in my life? Not lie to myself and be satisfied about myself and be proud of myself. And is there someone who is suffering? Before your willingness, you may want to give something to that person and enjoy that joy together. That is altruism. And by repeating such a life, lastly, you will naturally accept your death. And because you have dedicated so much, you will not be afraid. You will feel that I will be free in the world of God after this. So you will be enlightened. This is not something that you will learn from religion or from other people, but through your life. You can be responsible for yourself. You are proud of your own life. It's not because there is money or there is power, but the poor people and the children, the refugees, a life without discrimination. Understand that, and after that you are being thanked by others, and everyone can live with confidence, even though you may be poor or you may be a refugee, you may be discriminated. You can feel proud of yourselves and feel that you're not afraid of dying. People who are afraid of dying are people who are living a false life. That is why you are afraid. If you believe you are living in the right manner, then you're not afraid of dying. It's now time to go. I did all my mission during my life. That is a way of living that you will not be afraid of dying. So about independence of individuals and what Dr. Attali mentioned, become oneself. There's one thing I wanted to mention. Well, Dr. Attali said that the inner side of individuals must change to change the society. And this concept, we absolutely agree with that. And in promoting that, we actually started specific initiatives in 2015, which is the Fuji Declaration initiative. The Fuji Declaration has two important values to be restored. One is that humans, there is a divine spark residing in every human being, and another is the oneness of all lives, not only linkage between people, but we are living through our linkage connection with nature and the whole universe. We want to revive these two values, and we believe this is the basis of social transformation. So for divine spark, that is love, kindness, compassion, altruism, that is something that we humans have within ourselves. We want to recover this. Just like the cultural renaissance, this is a spiritual renaissance that we are aiming for. And actually, more than 60 international organizations and more than 200 signatories got together to start this project. Now this is expanding globally. So I hope Dr. Attali will also join this project. And let us together try to change the awareness of people, which is the basis of social transformation. Let us move together to that direction.
Thank you very much. I will do my best to read at length and seriously this declaration, and will be happy to see how I can join. Each of us can have his own view of spirituality, and what is important is tolerance. I personally believe also that if there is a God somewhere, the God is everywhere in each of us, and the reality of divinity is the reunion of all the sparkles of divinity in each soul. But this is a private choice, and each one of us should respect the choice of the others.
Thank you very much.
Maybe we can spend some minutes more, because I will have to leave in 15 minutes maximum.
Yes, of course. I hope we can discuss a little more. Now, in the future, as was mentioned before, for the future generations, which is the theme today, for the younger people to be able to use their ability to make a better world, how can we provide support to the younger people? What should we do to support the younger people? Could you talk a little about it?
Well, you know, it's a matter of international rule of law. We, each of us, we can do something. I created international NGOs. Each of us can support NGOs. We do a wonderful job. You are welcome to support my NGO. We have an office in Tokyo, and we're delighted to have you support our actions for young people around the world with the help of Japanese companies and Japanese supporters. Each of us can provide work, time, money, and expertise to our programs or programs of other NGOs. And I think that's the first thing you can do to be concrete, to support existing NGOs who do a lot of job to support youth around the world. And then we can dream of more. We can dream of universal minimum income for young people. You can dream for universal education, mainly for girls, which is badly needed, especially in Africa, where the lack of education is a disaster for women. We can dream of a lot of things, and we can work on that. But as I said at the beginning in my first opening speech, If you just do wishful thinkings and platform and manifesto that you sign, you go almost nowhere. You have to act, to do some things. Then the question you have to raise, okay, I am in favor of a better future for next generation. What do I do myself? What do I do? Do I only write papers? Do I only write manifestos? Or do I act myself? Do I give some of my time for young people in the poor district of Tokyo, or in the poor district of Bangladesh, or in the poor district of Africa? And if you you have to put your acts in coherence with your words, it's why I think we should both try to advocate, evangelize for a better world, better education, what the UNESCO is doing, improve resources and the support for international institutions, that's fine. But we should also do something by ourselves. And when we spend some money for a new car or a new clothes or holidays or whatever, we should think, do I need that, or should I do better in giving that money to an NGO that I believe is serious and is doing a good job? That's a question that each of us should raise. And then my answer is both act globally by pushing for better education and minimum income for young people and digitalization around the world for them, and do something humble, small, but efficient for them at the local level.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tasaka. About the empowerment of younger people, support of younger people, what are your views about it? Yes. For the younger people, what we can do now, we adults have the responsibility about it. There are two things I'd like to mention. Of course, mental support must be provided to the younger people. But in this era, there are two things that must change. One is capitalism. Current capitalism is a financial capitalism. For example, labor of people are treated as a product called labor. So from the younger people's perspective, the joy of working or to be able to use your own ability through work cannot be enjoyed in the current capitalism. There was a book about Karl Marx written, and Karl Marx in the past used to say labor alienation. He talked about labor alienation, and the current capitalism has spread that alienism as a culture. That is something that must be changed. Otherwise, the younger people will not be able to enjoy the joy of using their capacity and the joy of working for others. So we must change the capitalism. That's my first point.
And another thing is changing democracy. Democracy. There are some misunderstandings about democracy. Democracy, well, U.S. presidential election is ongoing right now, and you cast a vote and voting for the party of your liking or participating in decision-making in the society. Well, of course, that's something that should be done, but true democracy is about participating in social change. Young people should be allowed to do that. Otherwise, democracy could be dwarfed into just an activity of going to the polls on election day. Social entrepreneurs. I've been working to foster social entrepreneurs. Taking part in social change. This is what they do, social entrepreneurs. So such movement must be enhanced. In other words, from representative democracy, we need to transform ourselves into participatory democracy. Once we have accomplished that, this would allow young people to really flourish. their abilities and to get joy out of doing that. At Goi Peace Foundation, we are, through UNESCO activities, we are working to expand the platform of young people. There are an increasing number of young people who are trying to create a better world. So we develop a platform for them. What we can do is to give them a forum for their activities. At our foundation, we want to really focus on expanding the platform and the network for young people. Yes, that is correct. Around the world, young people getting the same education and they become enlightened by doctors like Dr. Attali and Dr. Tasaka. Well, we have to give such opportunities to young people, not indirectly. We have to think about how we can give such opportunities and experiences to young people directly. All three of us want to support such activities for young people. On a personal level, what I do, just looking at Japan, looking at my children, they don't want new clothes or jewelry. What they want is, for example, go to hospitals or orphanage or educational facilities. We have to give hope and encouragement to young people. Older people like ourselves, we just want to support such acts on the part of young people. Dr. Attali, I think this is going to be the last question. About the future, Dr. Attali, what kind of hope do you have for the future? In your books, you talk about optimism and positivism.
Yes, I have a lot of hope for the future.
You talk about these notions in your books, so can you elaborate on that, please?
Yes, first I want to thank you very much for your invitation. I'm very proud of this prize and very happy of this thorough discussion and the deepness of your remarks, and I'm quite honored to be part of this group today. Your question is very important. I am neither optimistic nor pessimist for the future. I think everything is possible because everything is in our hands. The simple fact of asking, are you optimistic or pessimist, means that you put yourself in the position of a spectator. Of course, if you are a spectator, you look at what happened and you see what happened and what is done by others. And then you are not playing your part in it. The world of tomorrow will be done by us. If each of us are spectator, if we are passive, it will be done by the others. And unfortunately, it will be done mainly by the forces of evil, because history learned that the forces of evil have more strength than the forces of good, because the forces of good are very often naive and wait for being attacked before reacting. It is important not to be spectators, to be actors. I very often take the example or the metaphor of a match of soccer. If you are a spectator of a match of soccer, then you are optimistic or pessimistic for the team you support. You think they are going to win or they are going to lose, and you comment the match. But if you are a player of a match, and we all are players of a match of life, we are not spectators of a match of life, a player in the match, soccer match, is not pessimist or optimistic. He has to win, and he does his best to win. What does he do? He trains himself, he prepares strategy with his partners, he understands the weaknesses and the strength of the other team, and do his best to win the match. We have to prepare ourselves to do the best to win the match. If I may say, am I optimist or pessimist? The only thing I can say is that the match is not already lost. Certainly, we have received a lot of goals against us, but the match is not over and we can still win it. That's my small touch of optimism in a fight which is in our hands. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Tasaka, about the future, what kind of hope do you have for the future? Dr. Attali, what he said is very deep, very impressive. On the topic of hope, if I may say one thing, this term hope, generally speaking, something that will happen that is good in the future. If you believe in that, people tend to think that that is hope. But the definition of this word, hope, should be deepened. When we look around us, there's global warming, disasters, pandemic, disparity between rich and poor, refugee issue, racial discrimination, terrorism. Very bad things are happening, but we shouldn't become pessimistic just because of that. The true meaning of hope is, even if pessimistic, negative things may be happening right in front of your eyes, through that phenomenon, we have to learn important things and develop and grow. That is something that was given to us by the Almighty, and if you believe that, we have hope. There are so many negative things around us today, but I think we need to really think about the deeper meaning of hope. Yes, many pessimistic, negative things may be happening around us, but we, the humankind and the individuals, through these adversities, we have to learn. We have to learn and grow and mature. We are at that stage right now. Once you believe in that, we truly understand the meaning of hope. And the topic of Dr. Attali being positive, we will be able to understand the true meaning of being positive. Thank you. Masami Sayonji, Dr. Attali, the positive, the idea of positive. I am older than Dr. Attali, but I always think positively. I'm convinced that we can do, we can accomplish, we can be positive, believe in yourself. Tell yourself that you're doing all you can to have pride. Once you have that notion, regardless of whether you win or lose, you know that you've done your best. So that's not loss or defeat. That should lead to more happiness for you. Life, in the end, is up to each one of us. The frame of mind would make you poor or sickly and suffer, but if you really work very hard and if you believe in yourself, you are given an equal opportunity. If you have an inferiority complex and if you think that you are going to be defeated, you will be. So Dr. Attali, positive life, altruism, and Dr. Tasaka's notion of working for others to help young people, if we have a strong conviction in that, we can make that happen. So just the four of us, we have created a new world. That is the sense that I got. So
yes, with Dr. Attali, I read your books, Dr. Attali, and I'm writing in my papers also. I wrote about 40 books, but I'm learning from many people. Dr. Tasaka also, I learned a lot from him. And he's writing the truth in his book. So I think to talk with each other like we are doing today and share with each other, and if that is expanded globally, I think we can create a better world. Thank you very much. So hope is not something that is vague, but to become oneself, to self-realize, and based on that, to have a positive feeling and link to actions. I think that's what it is. Well, today I was very happy to be able to talk with you, Dr. Attali. As I said earlier, we're able to choose a very good person as a laureate of Goi Peace Award, and by talking with you today, I once again notice that we were able to award this award to such a wonderful person. It's an honor for us to make a better society. Let us work together going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you in Tokyo very soon.
We are waiting for you in Tokyo.
改めて、この間のトークセッションの動画を見て
Now, looking at the video of the talk session the other day, it was a wonderful session. I myself was impressed by the magnificent character of Dr. Attali. What is wonderful about Dr. Attali is that he has a comprehensive view of the world, and he has a mid to long-term view of the world, and he paints the future vision clearly for himself. But it's not just a matter of having that vision. He himself, in the world of politics, for example, the establishment of the European Union, he was the person behind the scenes, and the integration of the Eastern and the Western Germany. He played a role. So he practices that in the real world. It's not just him talking about his vision. He's a practitioner, gets things done on the ground, and he advocates the importance of altruism. He talks about the economy of life, which is very meaningful, I believe. So, while having a vision, he has the power to practice it. And for someone like him to be making such statements, that was wonderful. Yes, that was indeed wonderful. With Dr. Attali, we had a session and a conversation. What I felt is Dr. Attali, he exudes intelligence and his character from his body, and towards the vision in the future, he's working so forcefully. He has the courage, the strength, and ultimately he wants to realize his vision, and he has done that in the past. He talked about that experience. I was so impressed, and I felt that I want to work together with someone like that towards the future and towards the younger generation of the future. In my remaining years in my life, he has given me hope. So I'm really filled with the desire to work with him. Yes, indeed. As he was saying at the end, when he comes to Japan the next time, we hope to have a chance to have a good conversation so that we can work together to build a better world for the future. So from here on, let us move to part 2. Part 2 is the announcement of the winners of the International Essay Contest for young people. The Goi Peace Foundation has been focusing our efforts on youth education programs, and we have organized various education projects. In Japan, as the first foundation that has an official relationship with UNESCO, we are playing an important role as a partner in ESD, or Education for Sustainable Development, to provide education to develop those who will be agents for a sustainable society. So we are one of the important partners of UNESCO in this area, and we have been working with them. This international essay contest for young people is one of our pillars, and ever since the foundation, it's been held every year. It is endorsed by Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, Japanese National Commission for UNESCO, Japan Private High School Federation, Tokyo Metropolitan Board of Education, NHK and Nikkei, and supported by Seiko Holdings Corporation and Plus Corporation. This year, the theme of the essay is a letter from myself in 2030. We asked young people to imagine themselves 10 years from now living in an ideal world and write a letter to themselves living in today's world. It is a unique theme that was set for this year. We had 33,000 entries from 166 countries from around the world, the largest number ever. From them, the winners of the first prize, the Minister of Education prize, were selected for the children's category and the youth category, respectively. The winner of the children's category is Koji Senanayake of Sri Lanka, age 13. The winner of the youth category is Marta Chernichka from Ukraine, age 18. We received videos of them introducing themselves and reading their essays. So please enjoy.
Hello everyone, konnichiwa. I am Koji from Sri Lanka. I am 13 years old and I attend St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. It has been a great honor to have been chosen as the winner of the International Peace Essay Competition this year, which is organized by the Goi Peace Foundation. This competition has motivated me to reach out further to people of other races, religions, and ethnicities, and to find better ways to communicate with them and to build lasting friendships. Because I believe what we have in common is far greater than any outward differences we may possess. And it is up to each of us to leave this world better than we found it. Now, I will begin to read my essay titled, Your Future Begins Today. Dear Koji of 2020, you would never have expected a letter from me in your wildest dreams. However, I am writing to you as your future is my present reality now. Do you remember how you predicted that in 10 years people will be living on Mars and that every child will beg Santa Claus to bring them jetpacks for Christmas? Unfortunately, neither of those things have happened yet. However, over the last few years, there have been many changes. Changes we didn't expect have crept on us slowly so that we didn't even feel it. But when we look back at the world we live in, it has altered considerably. Scientists have discovered that now they can treat life-threatening diseases that they earlier thought were incurable. With the help of AI and robotics, doctors have made advancements in the field of medicine and people are enjoying its benefits today. Schools have changed drastically over the last decade, along with subjects like math, English and science, self-awareness, diversity and social responsibility have made it into the curriculum. So as a result, people evaluate their decisions by seeing if it can pass through these three gates. Is it beneficial to me? Is it beneficial to others? Is it beneficial to the world at large? These actions have made us more human in the best way possible. People smile a lot now. They seem genuinely happy from inside out. I thought you'd be pleased to hear that. War is a thing of the past. People still have disagreements, but they have learned to value each other's differences without expecting everyone to be the same. Communication and understanding have superseded suspicion and prejudice. And this has made our communities far more peaceful. The world has turned more conscious as well. The 3R concept of reduce, reuse, and recycle is integrated into the very being of people and their daily lives. But it doesn't stop there. Our generation is built on that foundation. We have introduced a more advanced 3R concept of rethink, reimagine, and reinvent, which we are striving towards with great enthusiasm. For instance, instead of cutting trees to make way for housing, now homes are artfully designed to stand atop tree branches. Needless to say, children everywhere are delighted with this. I must now tell you something more personal. Do you remember the rose apple sapling that you planted 10 years ago? Can you remember how you watered it faithfully, and each day how happy you were if there were new leaves on it? Can you also recall how you measured it painstakingly with your ruler to see if it was any taller than the previous day? I remember how happy you were if it was, and how unhappy you were if it wasn't. A decade has gone by, and you are now at university, miles away from home. Yet the rose apple tree is still there, just that it is much taller now, with branches spreading overhead, and it's laden with luscious red fruits. After you left home for your higher studies, your parents were lonely without you. They missed the frolic that you and your friends got up to, and the laughter that filled the house each day whenever you were at home. However, now there are small children in your neighborhood who always come into your garden after school to pluck some rose apples with your parents' permission. They fill your house with laughter, and their excited, babbling voices make your parents' faces light up once again. So as you can see, every action, no matter how small, has a lasting consequence. Sometimes you get to enjoy its benefits. Sometimes you don't. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that we do something good anyway. Lastly, let me leave you with this thought. What we do today can make a better tomorrow. So choose your actions wisely, for your future is in your hands. Lots of love, Koji of 2030. And that wraps up my speech. Thank you for listening, and sayonara.
Hello, I'm Martin Trinishko from Gray. I'm honored to be the first prize winner of International Ethics Contest for Young People. I'm an ordinary girl, but now I feel strength in my heart to ignite this world. Sir Isaac Newton once said, "If I have even since rising, it's by standing upon the shoulders of giants." My family and the Goi Peace Foundation gave me the boomerang of hope to throw in my future. And now I want to share this boomerang with you. Boomerang of hope. Sitting alone in a scantily-lit room, I feel my words being addressed to the silence. I write these lines with grief in my heart, guessing how it will be difficult for you to read them. You will be trying with all your might to convince yourself this letter was written by a stranger who doesn't resemble the one that meets you every morning in the mirror. A thesis. No matter what happens, we are the ones who always turn a little problem into gigantic trouble. We pick up a smidgen of reality, combine it with fiction, and from this solution, we inflate a huge bubble to hide inside it from routine. Fate is not without sense of irony. You will not recognize me, but we cross each other's paths every day in each of your dreams and thoughts. although in one exact moment you will avoid looking me in the eye to face this fact. Let me unlock a little secret for you. There will also be disenchantments for you, because there is no way I, you, in the future could equal your hopes. Sorry, but even your lowest bar will be too high for me to jump to. I'm not strong enough to climb up on pedestal and be the best. Well, take it from me. You will not forget the moment of realizing that being first in race is not the main thing. Looking at the paper, I imagine flocks of your questions emerging and becoming tangled together. They will be apt to find the gaps in my story. In this easy way, it will be easy to label it incredible. Anyway, if I still think to be a pure figment, then please listen to the figment. To imagine the world in 2030, just ask yourself a question. How do you see it with your own eyes? In this very moment, you generate my reality in your mind. Every day, people in your world through boomerangs educate distance. These boomerangs show us in 2030 the best to follow and indicate how people in 2020 see the prospects in the future. I can't even calculate how many of these boomerang messages each of us gets every minute. Each time it turns into gamble of uncertainty. Yesterday, my friend came to know that in the bus, she had decided to do some charity work. She had already sent in her future wish to lead a charity fund. I expect now to hear your skeptical note that it sounds too easy. Just send your wish into the future and it will be fulfilled. To be honest, I'm still waiting for my boomerang. I feel like I'm at a point where I think it could have gotten lost in a sense of time. My boomerang just didn't manage to fly here because your wish was lacking in face. Every day I live playing by someone else's rules. Hard work in the office has become so annoying for me and my colleagues, whose past selves ordered them to adjust to this life. All that remains for us is to regret that something was done wrong earlier. We had to convince ourselves to move all the mountains along the way in order to accept who we were. Believe in yourself. Remember what your father said. It's not so important to obey rules as it is not to be hit by a car. The worstest goal is not to become the perfect version of yourself, but to be a happy person who builds her path from scratch. Create a new life for me. We're completely different, yet so connected by an invisible link. Send your thoughts to me so they can turn into reality here. Just look around. Your life is like a castle built with bricks of the tree. One little princess. That one was you, who believed in becoming a kind witch who would make a better world. So, please, let your boomerang of face to feel the wholeness around me. Thank you. Finally, my message to everyone's watching. Everybody needs wings to fly. Some are afraid to get off the ground. Some don't have a spirit to look far up. Never give up. Glue feathers to wings, even if some of troubles rip them off. Fly in the pursuit of your dream. Make believe in yourself. As soon as you're the best compass of your life. Thank you again.
お二人の最優秀
So
賞
we heard the winning essays of the two winners. And along with the essays, we received illustrations and pictures. It seems that those pictures were selected by the winners. Now, Koji's pictures, it seems that his grandmother painted those illustrations. So we could really see that the entire family is very delighted for this prize. And having listened to the two essays, any observations? Koji from Sri Lanka and Marta from Ukraine. Having listened to them, I really felt that the future that we are creating is being passed on to those young people. I'm so impressed and moved with emotion. Koji was so pure. His sensitivity is so wonderful. He is full of dreams and hope. He's so positive about the future, which was so impressive. And Marta from Ukraine, she talked about boomerang. She was very conscious of this idea of boomerang. And by Marta, I learned something new. Boomerang, your awareness about the future vision, you throw your boomerang into the future and it comes back to you. So your passion, your hope, or your negative feelings sometimes, there are boomerangs that carries those negative sentiments and those boomerangs that carries positive sentiments. Like Marta said, we should throw a positive boomerang because it will always come back to you. Your awareness about the future will come back to you to be reflected in the current reality. We tend to have negative thoughts. We can't do it. I cannot beat the competition. I'm not talented. I'm poor. Those negative boomerangs, we constantly throw those boomerangs, but they come back to you eventually. So those negative boomerangs, well, on the other hand, positive boomerangs, valuing the importance of future. Listening to the two winners of the essay contest, I felt that we're fine because the earth is going to be handed to those people with their power, with their talent, and with their power and hope. We can change the future. That was so visible in front of me. Listening to them, I'm so moved with emotion. They are worthy winners of this prize. I'm very happy, and my congratulations to the winners. And of course, as we said, from 166 countries, more than 30,000 entries were made. We want to introduce more of these essays. In selecting the winners, I've heard some comments from the selection committee, and the theme is different this time. This is a message from the future. Our focus is on the future. And this is a letter from yourself in the future, writing to yourself of the present. So more than ever, we were able to appreciate the greatness of children's imagination. But on the other hand, by thinking about the future, the position that you are in, the current status of the world is looked at, you think about it, and to make it into a better world, what can be done? This was a great opportunity to think about that. So this was quite interesting, and I believe that the theme for this year's contest was a very good one. Now, other than the first prize, the prize of the Ministry of Education, in the children's category, second prize went to Praise Chukwumerez of Nigeria, Ryoka Tanoi from Japan. In the youth category, Julia Fernandez from Brazil and Yuka Sone received the second prize. The 5 third prize winners for each category are as shown on the screen. The winners' essays will be uploaded on the website of Goi Peace Foundation, so please take a look. Now for Best School Award, it goes to groups that shows outstanding work. In this contest, the winners were Koka Gakuen Junior and Senior High School for Girls, Tokyo, and Setagaya Junior High School attached to Tokyo Gakugeidai University. Congratulations, everyone. So that completes part 1 and part 2 of the forum today. A number of years ago, Dr. Attali wrote a book entitled Future Predictions in 2030. So towards 2030, he clearly articulated about the positives and negatives in the future and the possibilities. And the theme for this year's essay contest was a letter from 10 years in the future. So the focus was on 2030. And Dr. Attali and Professor Tasaka, thinkers from the West and the East, gave us their recommendations and opinions. And in part 2, we heard voices of the young people who will be taking on the future world. So in that sense, I think this was a great opportunity to think about the future world. So throughout the course of today's forum, any comments? Great vision we were able to hear. Towards the future, I am inspired with hope. The future is bright, and the future is being created by children and the young people. In the future, we may have no more atomic bombs, no conflict, race, ethnic groups, national boundaries. We can cross over these different boundaries so that we can all be united. We can imagine such a world in the future. Children and the young people, they are not constrained by any conventional notions, and the careers that we have developed, for example, which school you graduated from, whether you have talent or not, whether you had good academic score or not, whether you're rich or poor, that should not be the criteria for evaluating people. Children have great inherent ability inside them. We should allow that to blossom. That is what I wish as an elderly person. And these children, for the earth and for the humankind, to create a world without any discrimination. How a world can be built without any atomic bombs. We want to be supporting these young people. I'm very grateful. At the foundation, ever since our foundation was established, we have been building a network for peace. That has been the greatest mission at the foundation. Going forward, we will continue that effort. But especially, we would like to target 2 layers of groups. One is people who are successful in various fields, opinion leaders and experts. This group of people include past laureates of the Goi Peace Award. And in the earlier talk session, we talked about the Fuji Declaration. There are like-minded groups, our friends and supporters, or more than 200 signatories, the founding signatories. They are successful and active in various areas. So we want to enhance this group of people. The second layer of people we want to target is the young people. The young people are the ones who will be creating the future world. We want to expand our network in that layer. Over the past 20 years, we have been promoting educational programs, and in our cooperation with UNESCO, great young people have been developed. So as we heard from the chairperson, this network of young people should be expanded. And these 2 networks should be connected. And we want to go ahead and connect these 2 groups of people. Experts, they have wisdom and experience. Young people, they have vigor and new ideas. So these 2 groups, by connecting these 2 groups, we can bring about great force and synergy towards peace. In many ways, we want to create a bigger network. We want to exert more efforts to that end. Next year, hopefully, we can have a physical forum. But this year, this online forum, this event was also very good. So from next year onwards, we can have this forum to be held in two ways. That will be even more wonderful. So I do hope that the forum will be attended by a large number of people. And with that, we would like to bring this year's forum to an end. Thank you very much.